Well, looks like DXO Mark, while they were accepting a lot of money from Google because they do work with smartphone companies on how to get the best overall score for your camera, turned out they wanted to just turn around and stab Google in the back and go, you know what, you're gonna redirect a lot of people towards our side, but that doesn't mean you're gonna stay number one. In fact, we're not even gonna review your phones anymore. So this video could very easily become dated if any time during the production of this, DXO Mark officially posts the score for the Google Pixel 3. But until then, that's right, DXO Mark seems to be skipping on the results of the Pixel 3, which is absolutely out of the ordinary, and they have officially crowned the iPhone XR for being the best smartphone camera with a single lens, and ouch, that's gotta hurt. Let me clarify something, because we're always getting new subscribers, we're getting new people watching, and a lot of you may not know my opinion on DXO Mark. So, I don't really care about them. I don't think their scores of smartphone cameras accurately portray what most people prefer in a smartphone, and they can say a phone camera is better than another, and it doesn't really mean anything to me, because I think most picture quality is subjective, and I think iPhones are king of video for numerous features that you get on iOS that you can't get on Android. Regardless, I think trying to rate cameras the way you rate CPU speeds is just a flawed idea, and I never understood why anyone would cite DXO Mark as being like, well, my camera's good, see, they said it was good, and because this camera got a slightly higher score than this camera, that means it's a better camera? No, I don't go by that logic, but the reason we end up talking about DXO Mark so much is because Google actually brought them into this smartphone game. DXO Mark was mostly and primarily reviewing DSLR cameras until the Google Pixel line came along, in which they wanted to prove that their smartphone camera was so good that they simply just said, well, this one company we found said that we're the best smartphone camera they've ever tested. And because of that, they partnered with them, and then everyone started comparing their smartphone scores to DXO Mark. Basically because not many other websites do these types of Rotten Tomatoes style percentage sheets of smartphone scores. Except, of course, with DXO Mark, it can go beyond 100. We know that. And the thing is, they advertised that OG Google Pixel as being the best smartphone camera because it had the highest score, and a lot of people would continue to cite DXO Mark for that. They would say, well, looks like we have the best smartphone camera. Why? Well, it's because DXO Mark gave us the highest score. Google continued this tradition along with the Pixel 2, saying, once again, we have topped out the competition. We've beaten everyone else. The Google Pixel 2 has the highest DXO Mark score of any smartphone out there. Conveniently, the same smartphone that Google advertised as not needing a dual camera throughout that year, phone after phone after phone, primarily phones with more than one camera, continued to top the Google Pixel 2 on the DXO Mark chart. So Galaxy S9 Plus got up there, more Huawei phones got up there, iPhones eventually started getting up there, and now in the number 2 place we have the iPhone XS Max, which again proves my point about the bizarreness of DXO Mark. They had to specify it was the Max, even though the XS and the XS Max have the same camera. And of course the number 1 spot is the Huawei P20 Pro. Regardless, no one could help but ask, when is the review for the Pixel 3 coming? Typically, Google partners with DXO Mark directly, and for a price, DXO Mark will tell you how to calibrate your camera in order to get the best overall score. So they had done this now 2 years in a row, I believe. So when it came around to year 3, we're all kind of waiting, when's Google gonna bring up the Pixel 3 score? This seemed to be like your main advertising feature. The main way you proved to everyone that you somehow had the best camera was by citing DXO Mark. They didn't really do that this year. They glossed over it in their keynote, and then a couple weeks had gone by, now over a month has gone by, and everyone's still wondering, where is the Pixel 3 review from DXO Mark? Maybe things got backed up, maybe things are a little bit slow, maybe they're still reviewing the Pixel 3, but then things got really weird when DXO Mark published their score for the iPhone XR, saying it was an incredibly decent camera, in fact, the best smartphone camera you can get that only has a single lens, which is funny given the iPhone XR, a cheaper product, was able to, on this website, outperform the Galaxy S9 Plus. Bizarre to me that this new camera lens with a variable aperture and a telephoto lens, apparently in the eyes of DXO Mark, is not as good as an iPhone XR. Again, the logic here is completely mind-boggling to me, but Google, you're the one who shined so much light on this company anyway, and this is how you convinced us that you had a good camera. So this means, and by the way, Pixel 3 was available and ready to purchase way before the iPhone XR was. The XR is a later phone than the Pixel 3 is, which means that if DXO Mark, first of all, keep in mind, has worked with Google in the past. You know, when launching the Google Pixel 1, they already had the score out for the Google Pixel, meaning meaning that they had worked with DXO Mark behind the scenes before the smartphone was even released. They had dictated what the smartphone camera rating was. Same story with the Pixel 2. They had worked with DXO Mark before the phone was even announced. They had their hands on one. They got to test it so that when the Pixel 2 was announced, they already had the score ready and they could say, see, we're number one again. They were only number one for a couple months and they were beat out by various other smartphones with more cameras than them. But this means that for the third year, there was no reason that DXO Mark shouldn't have been working with Google directly. I imagine DXO Mark probably got first-hand access to the Pixel 3, given it felt like you could buy it off the black market. So many people had the Pixel 3 before it was even announced. Of course DXO Mark had their chance to review the phone, test it out, and again, why not post a score on the launch date for the Pixel 3? Well, they didn't, and now other phones that have come out after the Pixel 3 are getting their scores published, and you know what that means? It's not that DXO Mark didn't feel like reviewing the Pixel 3. It's not that DXO Mark didn't want to review the Pixel 3. I think it's because they did. They tested out the Pixel 3, they put it through its paces, and they showed Google the score that they thought it rightfully deserved, and Google was not happy because it likely wasn't that good. It may have been a few points higher than the last year's Pixel 2, but if you put aside a lot of the new software features Google announced with the Pixel 3, like Night Sight, which again, really cool, the fact that it's still a single lens camera and it's the AI and image processing that's supposed to make this camera so great, then that means upgrading from a Pixel 2 to a Pixel 3, camera image quality isn't gonna change much. I also have no idea how DXO Mark doesn't factor in the fact that, well, when upgrading from a Pixel 2 to a Pixel 3, in Android 9, they toggle off for you to have the option of choosing video frame rates. I don't know about you guys, but I would definitely consider that a major factor when reviewing smartphone cameras and when recommending people which smartphone camera to get. Well, this one removes options for no reason. Also, the microphone is terrible. You can't record anything at 60 FPS unless the phone itself decides it wants to record 60 frames a second, which has never been a problem on either Android or iOS phones, yet Google just decided, let's remove options, why not? So perhaps DXO Mark reviewed the Pixel 3, gave Google the answer, and said, look, your camera's fine, it's just not that much better than last year, and it's definitely not better than a ton of other phones that we've already reviewed and published their scores. I bet there's a number out there, but Google, probably for a certain price, is asking DXO Mark not to publish it. We know that DXO Mark and Google have had very close ties in the past, and I bet Google had something to offer them in exchange for not really talking about the Pixel 3 and kind of glossing over it, or at least maybe delaying the number score of the Pixel 3 for a few more months. Just be like, can we not draw a lot of attention to this? We kept telling people that we're the best because DXO Mark said we're the best, and now DXO Mark is saying you're not first place, you're not second place, you're not even third or fourth place. You're like way down on the chart, to the point that I think publishing their iPhone XR camera review is a little bit evident of DXO Mark putting their foot down and saying, look, if we're gonna talk about single lens smartphone cameras, the XR, that's the one you ought to get. And everyone's like, where's your Pixel 3 review? And they're like, like we said, the iPhone XR camera, that's the single lens camera of the year, in my opinion at least. Of course, there could be some just giant holdup that for some reason they're deciding to not review the Pixel 3. Maybe Google is working and tinkering on the image processing and they're hoping that in the upcoming weeks they're gonna get their score way higher because the colors are just even more accurate than ever, and that'll somehow shoot it past all the Huawei phones. But I don't think it's gonna happen. I think DXO Mark just took their money and said, you know what? We can't lie. The Pixel 3 camera is not that much different from the Pixel 2 camera, especially in the tests that we put it through. And that's why they're saying iPhone XR, best single lens camera, XS Max, second best camera overall, which once again, I just have to reiterate, this scoreboard should not matter. Picture quality is incredibly subjective, and it should not be rated the same way we test clock speed on CPUs. But regardless, let me know what you guys think of this retraction of review that DXO Mark suddenly has had. It's definitely very bizarre, and love to hear your guys' theories down in the comments below. Also, I wanted to give a quick update to our Patreon donors out there. 2019 is usually when we do a lot of design changes for the Tailosive network. Profile pictures, cover photos, animations, intros, outros, those are all getting updated, and because there's been a lack of interest on our Patreon page recently, we're gonna start moving the Patreon members who have been supporting this channel down into the description. You won't be in the official video anymore, you'll still be credited, and we're gonna begin the process of kind of slowing down our promotion of Patreon just because we have Twitch and tier 1 subs on there and we have YouTube members here, and I feel like I'm asking for your money in too many different methods and we need to simplify it a little bit. So we're just kind of slowly slowly scaling back the Patreon advertising, and we're still very thankful, and we're still going to continue to credit the people who are supporting me, but just not as heavily and just not in the video when going into 2019. In 2019, our outro will be promoting other channels in the Tailosive network instead, and we're hoping this can be a more mainstream look to the channel as our audience is continuing to grow. So thank you again for your support. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I'll see you in the next one.